what I can say with great certainty is that the rate of civilian casualties in any drone operation are far lower than the rate of civilian casualties that occur in conventional war. There is no doubt, and I said this in an interview, I think recently, there's no doubt that some innocent people have been killed by drone strikes. The number of civilians who were killed in normal military operations. And we anguish over this.
The question is that I put forth and challenge people, you know, when President Barack Obama said, you know, we're 5 days away from fundamentally transforming America, and I addressed that. No one asked him, what does that mean? No one asked him, what are you fundamentally transforming it to or from what? You know, the biggest war criminal in the United States of America sits at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Look, if the left wants to stand beside a person that abandoned Americans to die under a terrorist attack, then that shows how bereft of any code of honor that they have, any sense of integrity, any character whatsoever. And if they want to try to continue to bring up my service record and what I did to protect my men and women, I could really give a rat you-know-what.
Economy, greed-driven, obsessed with profits by any means, and then you've got privatizing of public education, privatizing of public prisons, and then you got militarizing, where you, of course, the national security state expands, drones dropping bombs on innocent people, those are war crimes. You've got attacks on whistleblowers. Brother Julian Assange, I was blessed to talk with him this week. Bradley Manning, these are other very courageous folk dealing with, trying to tell the truths about the secrets and dirty wars. Drones today, war crimes again. Poverty is trying to organize poor people. Not a mumbling word about poverty. We have the highest levels of poverty since 1960 in this regard.
But are you saying Obama is actually responsible for war crimes? Is that how you see it?
I think that they commit war crimes when they meet on Tuesday and have a killer list. And if they did it once or twice and said, my God, we got collateral damage, yes, but we've got over 4,000 innocent civilians dead and over 219 innocent children dead. They strike me as war crimes. I'm old school in this. 2% of American children living in poverty, 40% of red, 40% of brown, 40% of black children living in poverty in the richest nation in the history of the world. That's morally obscene. 1% of the population owns 42% of the wealth. The top 400 individuals have wealth equivalent to the bottom 150 million. That's spiritually profane.
In fact, I can say that the types of operations that the U.S. has been involved in the counterterrorism realm, that nearly for the past year there hasn't been a single collateral death because of the exceptional proficiency, precision of the capabilities that we've been able to develop.
That's one of the chief counterterrorism advisors to President Obama, John Brennan.
Would be and is a severe violation of human rights law as well as the laws of war for the administration to kill people that it might otherwise be able to detain. We have had a program that was begun under the Bush administration but vastly expanded and accelerated by the Obama administration. And this is a program in which the executive branch, the president, claims the authority to unilaterally declare people enemies of the state, including U.S. citizens, and order their killing based on secret legal criteria, secret process, and secret evidence. There is no national security policy that poses a graver threat to human rights law and civil liberties than this policy today.
President Obama authorized his first known drone strike 3 days after taking office, as he was announcing this radical shift from the Bush-era doctrine of preventive and preemptive war. President Obama is running an assassination program where in a 2-week span in Yemen, he killed 3 U.S. citizens, none of whom have been indicted or charged with any crime. And Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki, a 16-year-old U.S. citizen, whose only crime appears to have been that his last name was al-Awlaki, was murdered in a U.S. strike. And there has been no explanation as to why a 16-year-old U.S. citizen was killed. There is no indication that any suspected militants were killed. There's no indication that any known al-Qaeda figures were killed. That family deserves an explanation. The American people deserve an explanation. The most dangerous thing I think the U.S. is doing, besides murdering innocent people in many cases, is giving people in Yemen or Somalia or Pakistan a non-ideological reason to hate the United States.
These are the spots where the son of the American preacher, Anwar al-Awlaki, was killed. His son and 8 of his friends were sitting in this place having dinner, and they were targeted by one rocket here, another rocket there. If you see this big circle targeted them, and then another rocket beyond this area. They say it's an American targeted killing for an American citizen, of course.
If you go to the village of Al-Majla in Yemen, where I was, and you see the unexploded cluster bombs, and you have the list and photographic evidence, as I do, of the women and children that represented the vast majority of the deaths in this first strike that Obama authorized on Yemen, those people were murdered by President Obama on his orders because there was believed to be someone from al-Qaeda in that area. There's only one person that's been identified that had any connection to al-Qaeda there, and 21 women and 14 children were killed in that strike. And the U.S. tried to cover it up and say it was a Yemeni strike. David Petraeus conspired with the president of Yemen to lie to the world about who did that bombing. It's murder it's mass murder.
I'm optimistic about things in America. You know, the president of the United States, traitor that he is actually a constitutional lawyer. He's actually trained at the highest levels of university in constitutional law. Do you know how obscene it is that somebody who is trained in constitutional law giving himself the authority to execute anyone, anywhere, at any part of the planet with no jury, no trial, no conviction, no nothing? This man is a dictator who has assigned himself the right to execute anyone, including U.S. citizens. I am confident that at some point the American patriots, who seem to be in a bit of a coma and have been sleeping for a long time, are going to wake up soon and realize that while they took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States, the President of the United States also took that oath and has breached it so badly that he should be arrested and charged with treason right now. And ultimately, all of the sycophants in the U.S. Congress who passed things like the Patriot Act and the National Defense Authorization Act, again, completely contrary to the U.S. Constitution, which is supposed to be the supreme law of the land, these people need to be arrested. And a government needs to be put in place that actually honors the U.S. Constitution. And I honestly believe that's going to happen. And again, American patriots are going to go into the Congress and the White House eventually and arrest these cowards and traitors.
Right now in Halab, Syria, just an 8-hour drive from Tel Aviv, a genocide is taking place. You know what? Let me be more accurate. It is a Holocaust. Yes, a Holocaust. Maybe we don't want to hear about it or deal with it, that in the 21st century, in the age of social media, in a world where information can fit into the palm of your hand, in a world where you can see and hear the victims and their horror stories in real time, in this world, we are standing doing nothing while children are being slaughtered every single hour. And nobody in France or in the UK or in Germany or in America is doing anything to stop it. Who is marching in the streets for the innocent men and women of Syria? Who is shouting for the children? No one. The UN is holding meetings of its security councils and wiping away a tear when they see the image of a father holding the body of his little daughter. There is a word for this. Hypocrisy.
Look at other news now, and the US has admitted to killing dozens of civilians in drone operations in several countries. It is the first time the Obama administration has released data with such a significant death toll, but the numbers are not what some journalists were expecting, as Caleb Maupin explains.
The report from the White House indicates that between 64 and 116 non-combatant civilians have died as a result of U.S. drone strikes. Now, it was made clear by the White House that this report does not include people who died in Afghanistan, Iraq, or Syria. The reason that these three countries were excluded is because these are considered to be active war zones. And according to the White House, the number of civilian deaths in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria are classified.
The people that are giving the order to kill, they don't care. They don't care who gets killed as long as their target gets attacked, as long as their target gets killed. They'll take out however many people that they can.
As we've heard, the number of dead from US drone strikes in Afghanistan is classified information and hasn't been released. But last year, a whistleblower website did shed some light on the programme. The leaked report revealed that almost 90% of drone strikes there resulted in civilian casualties.
The United States has just started bombing a new country, and no one even noticed. Why? Because our media hardly bothered to tell them. Just recently, President Obama, the president who ran on a platform of ending wars, remember that? Just began airstrikes in Libya, making it the 4th country we are now actively bombing the crap out of in our undeclared war on terror. We have already dropped at least 50,000 bombs in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. And now we're bringing those bombs to Africa, in Libya. This should be big news, especially considering how most Americans are incredibly sick of their country sinking all of our money into wars and killing everyone everywhere. But not only was it not big news, it was barely reported at all, as reported by The Nation.
I didn't understand until the next day that an American drone killed my son. Why? Tell me.
They should know who they're killing. What did we do to deserve this?
I have no idea why my grandmother was killed.
I asked Obama to bring my dad back to life.
This is a targeted, focused effort at people who are on a list. Drones have not caused a huge number of civilian casualties. It is not something that's being